Madison is going to talk about some of the. You have a presentation, I believe.
I have a handout,
Okay.
and I'll just walk through some
All
of your previous.
I'll let you take the floor from there.
Okay, I keep around. Thank you for having me. Is anyone on? Okay.
Sure, Terry's listening.
Okay, perfect. My name is Madison. I work for Wasatch Front Regional Council. I'm your local administrative advisor, so I help with all administrative assistance. I currently work with 15 total municipalities throughout the region, and Hooper is one of them. So I've had the pleasure of working with Malcolm for the last 2 years on your moderate income housing design report. And the next report is due, we think, August 1st, unless there are any legislative changes. So I just wanted to take a moment to kind of walk through your current amendment to the general plan for affordable housing, which was last updated in January of 2023. And you can see in the last couple of pages, so page 8, 9, 10, and 11, it really outlines the 3 strategies that you report on every year to DWS for the Moderate Income Housing Plan report. And as a reminder, this is a statutory requirement, and I have stepped in to help because it has been kind of a process to work through. DWS has published a lot of different guidance throughout the years, and we've kind of bounced around with some of our reporting, trying to figure out what was most acceptable. And you can see strategy 1 starts on page 8. So the first strategy that the city selected was to create or allow for reduced regulations related to internal or detached accessory dwelling units in residential zones. And then there are a list of milestone tasks and activities. There were planned start dates and planned completion dates, and then current status. So the idea behind the Moderate Income Housing Report was to take each one of these selected strategies. There are, more than a dozen strategies available to municipalities. Municipalities without a fixed Skypay station, and so this would be Hooper, would need to select 3 of them to remain within compliance with state statute. And so one of the selected strategies was this strategy number E for ADUs. And so we'll get into this in a moment. The second strategy selected is strategy F. This is again from the state menu of options, and this was to zone or rezone for higher density or moderate residential development in commercial or mixed use zones near major transit investment corridors, commercial centers, or employment centers. And then you can see again the list of milestone tasks and activities, the planned start and end dates, and the current status. The third strategy is very similar to the last strategy. This is strategy G, so amend land use regulations to allow for higher density or new moderate income residential development in commercial or mixed use zones near major transit investment corridors. And you can see the milestone and tasks are very similar for strategy G, or 3, excuse me. So those are the 3 strategies that were selected by the city initially in 2023 when the city began the Moderate Income Housing Plan report. That was prior to when I started helping. I think two years has passed since I've been working with the city on the reporting side. There have been a few legislative changes since 2023. Like I mentioned, there are about 12 strategies that municipalities can choose from. And to my understanding, Hooper has never changed a strategy. We've continued to report on the same strategies selected in 2023, which has been great. And we've been able to demonstrate progress year over year. Typically, progress that we report on, we'll talk about planning commission discussions, city council discussions, any rezones that may have occurred. We also document like the number of.
You have his copy. Sorry, I passed too many.
Oh, sorry.
You're good.
So we'll report on, in the progress report section of every report, we'll typically report on like parcels, a number of parcels available for development. These are all like metrics used within that the report asks for. The total number of ADU units as reported at the date of the report, total number of business licenses to rent an ADU if that's applicable for the entity. Those are the type of questions that the Moderate Income Housing Report asks. For the strategy progress reporting, I just wanted to briefly go over what has been reported in prior years. And so I kind of made a couple of notes from 2023 through 2025. So the 2023 through 2025 report for strategy E, this is again the ADU strategy. We just made a couple of notes about how the city reviewed its ADU policy in 2023 and in 2024, passed ordinance 2024-04 that amended Title X or Title 10, excuse me. And then every year since the initial ordinance adoption, we've reported on possible considerations of allowing variance language or other amendments to the ADU language. So that's sort of an overview for the ADU. For the other two strategies,
Real quick on ADUs.
Yeah.
I just wanted to plug into the council. The planning commission has had a fair amount of interest in updating some of our ADU policy. Parents gotten familiarized with. That's something that you might see come down the pipeline. We referenced it a little bit in our last moderate income housing submission. So you might see some recommendations.
Before they you send me copies of it, there's a lot of stuff in there relative to the.
There's legislation right now that for ADUs as well, so that might change a little bit of what we've been working on each year.
Yeah,
Towards
fundamentally, the planning commission was looking at increasing the allowed size external overhead catch.
Yeah.
Thanks.
and that is actually helpful. So discussions like that and any progress made relating to ADUs or ADU policy or your ordinances, that would all be documented in the year's report to say, you know, these are the actions that Hooper took to make progress on that strategy. For the second and third strategies that were selected by the city, they're very similar. Most of the reports in prior years have reviewed the R2 and R3 zones and the proposed possible regional lift station to expand sewer service into regions that could be further developed within the city, making more property utility ready or lowering barriers to development. So both of those strategies are pretty similar, and they're both covered really by that discussion of expanded sewer service. So those are the three strategies that the city has selected, and I help with Malcolm documenting any progress made or any changes made throughout the year, and then that report goes to DWS before August 1st every year. We do expect there to be a few legislative changes. There have been a few rumblings on the Hill about a possible change to the report. Last year, we did have several changes to what we call the menu items. So like I mentioned before, there are about a dozen options that the city can choose from. And so if a city doesn't want to discuss ADUs or make any changes, they may want to choose something like rezoning for density is necessary to facilitate additional moderate income housing.
Or implement a beverage assistance program for employees in the municipality.
Yes, that's one of the menu options. So we've got about a dozen options. And so cities without a fixed guideway station need to choose 3. If you had a fixed guideway, you need to choose 5. One of the big changes last year, and this is sort of what I wanted to make sure I covered just to see if it were applicable or if conversations were had to implement any of these programs that you knew that would have a positive impact on your reporting. So the legislature added with HB 37, the Utah Housing Amendments, they added new sub-menu strategies. So in addition to all these strategies, which you're required to pick 3, they have some new kind of bigger, bolder strategies. And the advantage to taking on one of these larger strategies is that you would be considered compliant with your moderate income housing plan report for the first year and also 2 subsequent reporting years. So you've basically knocked out 3 years of reporting by choosing 1 as opposed to your 3 existing strategies. This is really advantageous for a community that maybe this is already on the table for you and you're already considering this type of work. If you are going to do this, make sure it's documented in your moderate income housing report, because it means that you can get some of these reports covered for future years. It takes a lot of burden off of the city if you were already to consider one of these. So a couple of examples, these are create a housing and transit reinvestment zone, HTRZ, create a home and ownership promotion zone, the HOPS, create a first home investment zone, also known as the FIZ, approve a project that receives funding from or qualifies to receive funding from the Utah Homes Investment Program, adopt or approve a qualifying affordable home ownership density bonus for single family residential units, or for the same home ownership density bonus for multifamily residential units. And so you can see those are documented in X through CC. So those are kind of like the big bold, kind of more bang for your buck if you wanted to cut down on your annual reporting. But I like to bring this to your attention only if you're just making sure that if you're going to do one of these, it can really help with your annual reporting. So we expect
Those homes have to be newly constructed, or could they be older homes in the community?
No. That's a good question. I do not know. I can look into it. Yeah. For the density bonuses, is it BB and CC?
I had an opportunity to attend WACOG meeting this week, and some folks from WFRC were there. And one of the things that was brought up was the ability to partner with the city so that they could do like a demographic study census for us. Is that part of what we've already done here? It was brought up as maybe a value for under the question of what is affordable housing and what is it affordable in our area. And I know in your handout there's some discussion about kind of our comparative to other cities. And so I'm curious if that fits within this, like if we're moving a step forward towards taking them up on the offer of doing the demographic study to understand what is affordable to our area, what's the census of that information? Is that something that moves us towards our plan or shows a kind of a check in the box of that?
Yeah, I think that would be an excellent way to describe progress on any of your three categories. I know really what we've been trying to demonstrate every year is that the city is taking actionable steps towards making progress in any of these three strategies that you've chosen. And it can get kind of difficult as we get kind of towards the end of some of these strategies, like the ADU, where if you're sort of wrapping up and you kind of have decided, okay, I've done as much as I'm going to do with our ADU ordinances, we've studied it and we're kind of closing it out. That would be an excellent one to say, well, we actually want to like apply this and figure out how it can interact with this strategy. Whereas we may also want to think about closing out a strategy if we we're at the tail end and we've decided that there's no more room that we can make progress in. So something like that is something I would definitely document within one or more, or maybe all of your strategies.
So does the statute require that we continue this forever, or can we achieve it? Can we essentially say, we've completed our strategy, we've achieved it, kind of get off our backs on it?
Yeah. Right now, my understanding is that and I have not gone through this process with the community yet, we've been able to continue to kind of demonstrate, even if it's a little bit of progress, we've been able to demonstrate progress. But there is a way to close out a strategy. And so we discussed this last year when we started talking about, as we get to the tail end of some of these, what do we do to close them out? So what DWS has asked is that we close out the strategy and replace it with a new one, and you select a new one from this menu option. We expect some changes to be made. Like I think there will be some changes either to the menu option or to the process or to the whole reporting as a whole.
Right.
My understanding is that we'll probably see some changes. So I've been kind of hesitant to go full steam ahead until the end of the legislative session. So right now we're just kind of monitoring. My advice to the city would be before August 1st, really have a good understanding if you want to close out a strategy, because you can't close it out after, I think it's June 30th, after the end of your fiscal year. I can double check on the end of the closeout period, but you would need to decide to close out a strategy prior to the end and then select your new strategy. But I've been hesitant to recommend doing that until the end of the legislative session, just because I think this changes.
Makes sense.
And this might be just to add on the question, but so if you haven't completed a strategy, you can roll over, and still get credit for that without keeping to add another strategy in addition to that.
Yeah.
See, that's been a little bit of a misunderstanding in the past. Sometimes we dealt with past strategies and they're ongoing, And then they want to all pay the amount of it. Well, we haven't finished what we initially had in place.
Yes, and I actually went through this with DWS last year because when I've been helping several entities with their reports and I was getting kind of mixed feedback, municipality to municipality, where I felt like we were demonstrating some level of action or actionable progress city to city, but I was getting a different response back from DWS on these reports. I noticed when I went to their moderate income housing report content page today, they actually added a new section within their page. And so specifically it says subsequent progress reports. So in the years following your initial report, which would be your last 2 years and this upcoming year, subsequent progress reports should include land use regulations and or decisions made by the community in the previous 12 months to implement their moderate income housing strategies. One of the questions we brought up was we feel like a lot of the work that the municipalities are doing are before the 12-month reporting period, but are still impacting in the current reporting period. So DWS added that you may include actions taken before the 12-month reporting period as an ongoing action if it clearly supports the moderate income housing strategy from the initial report. And they gave examples of a previously adopted ordinance, approved land use application, made an investment or approved an agreement or financing. And the new report shows the action is still helpful in making progress on the strategy. And I think that was really good for us to be able to show that we can take actions that were made not only in the last 12 months, but also prior to show that we're still making, like nothing's going to get wrapped up in a bow within 12 months. And we don't need to make all new actions every 12 months on one strategy. We just need to continue to demonstrate that we're supporting the original selected strategy.
I think an ADU is percent.
Yeah.
I mean, that was our strategy, but we can't control how many are going to be built a year. We do feel like it's going to be on more. There'll be some more built next year, and maybe some more built the year after.
Yeah.
So the question, that can still be used as a viable strategy, even though it's ongoing for several years. You don't have to wrap that up.
We
so
didn't,
to speak.
correct. We didn't receive any, we didn't receive a non-compliance letter from DWS last year in our report of our progress on ADUs, on Hooper's progress on ADUs, which I thought was really positive. It was a positive response. And so when I am thinking about our next report due August 1st for ADUs here in Hooper, I'm thinking about some of the conversations that we've had about handling possible variances. Should we consider variances for ADUs? That's part of the process, right? Ongoing handling the ADU. How do we handle, for example, do we need to amend any business license requests, or will there be business licensing? Continuing to juggle kind of the demands of ADU on the city. I would recommend continuing to report on that within the next year's report. And to me, that's still progress in supporting the adoption of ADUs and the existence of ADUs within your city. I think we were pretty successful last year, and that was basically what was documented in our report, and we didn't have any issue with DWS when that was reported. So
I think the ADU will be fine, assuming that some of these recommendations from the planning commission are entertained and, worked on. I think the ADU one to be good. I just wanted to piggyback. I think the big thing is it takes a little bit of time to report on it. So I just want to make sure that you guys like the strategies and you feel like those are things you want to put effort and work into so that we're getting there. I know one of them should be pretty easy this year because we have a grant to do some general plan continuation where we're gonna get a little bit more specific on what types of commercial go where and what types of zoning we'll permit. So that should help us meet probably the second strategy pretty well. The other ones always felt a little bit like stretch and you probably noticed in our report, we're going to talk about sewer a lot or lack thereof, and then we tend to stretch that for like our third strategy often. I don't know if we just want to maybe, I'm not saying, but you're like, there's other strategies like demonstrate investment in rehabilitation, expansion, infrastructure, facilities, construction, modern housing. I don't really care how we do it, but the sewer kind of has to come before some of these, but I just want to make sure you guys like the strategies and as you guys are going throughout the year, things we're working on are adding to those strategies, so they're meaningful, otherwise it just feels kind of, like we just do not do it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask of the, strategy 2 and 3, milestone dated December 2024, work to provide sewer. the R2 and R3 areas.
Yeah.
Both of those are 2 years behind the projected completed date. And so what does that mean for us in the compliance of, we say we've got these strategies, but we haven't done it, and it's 2 years out, it hasn't shown completed, that was the projected date. Am I understanding that correctly, that it's something that,
Page where you at?
on page 10 and 11? So, strategy 2, which was F, and strategy 3, which is G, the milestone that's next to complete says work to provide sewer service to area zone R2 and R3 by December 2024, and it doesn't show that we've completed that, and that seems 2 years beyond what we said we'd try to have it done.
I would imagine that was referencing Rawson Ranch. Well, it's probably referring to RP5. Probably Rawson Ranch, and you gotta contemplate like for the development that we were in the sewer with that new lift station.
Yeah.
It's kind of ongoing, I guess. Rawson's in, so it's complete to that extent, but.
Yeah.
There's more development to come. Yeah.
I'm just curious if we're like, these are our strategies and we're like sending this to the state or whatever, we're saying, like, hey, this is what we're doing. My eye just immediately went to just 2 years out of compliance on what we said we would do. And so I'm wondering, is there a way for us to either move that forward or decide if that's a strategy we still want to be pushing for?
I think we move forward from here, but. Yeah, look, you guys can do it.
Sure.
So we got yelled at about that?
No.
Would we?
No, but to hold off on that one, to be frank, to hold off, and if I'm understanding this correctly, is we have a couple developers, we'll probably do a project there that will kind of that same sewer. It's just currently zoned R1,
Okay.
which is fine.
Yeah, I'm curious. I just.
But
see it, I'm like,
R1's been a deterring factor for that zone,
Okay.
but
So if we have a strategy, if the city has set a strategy that no one comes in and wants to do it, what if we don't
That's a
have
good
it?
point. That's a great point.
Yeah,
I mean, is that?
that's a fair point, yeah.
On our end, then it's.
Mhm. And I think that's one of the challenges that we're facing with this report and with the reporting, and I think that that's why I hope we'll see more changes. I think between the second and third strategy, I think that we've been trying to stretch that language. We've been trying to be pretty stretchy and making it work. I think particularly this last report, I really tried to separate the second strategy from the third strategy, tried to keep sewer in second, and tried to kind of elaborate more on your subdivision ordinance and other actions that were taken by the city for 3. But I think it's been getting increasingly hard to kind of split the two and show measurable progress when, like you said, we've got the challenge of the private side not wanting to also come to the table. And so we've been pretty creative about what we've been able to include in the report with like the subdivision ordinance. And there are always actions that the planning commission and the city council take every year that can help contribute to these, right? It's pretty much all of the work that the planning commission does. We can kind of document within these strategy answers, but I agree. I think it's challenging when we've brought it almost as far as we think we can bring it, and then there can be no other action taken. These deadlines, these were all deadlines that the city created for itself. So I think, maybe one of the things, if Hubbard does want to keep these strategies for the next reporting year, maybe a recommendation would be to go in and make some amendments to these strategies, review the milestone and tasks, and think about, are there any other actions that the city can take with updated plan completion dates? That would be an excellent way to show progress in another year's report, in my opinion. And so if you wanted to not select a new menu item this year, if you wanted to wait for a future year to report on a different menu item.
So if we're doing everything we possibly can to make these things work and they don't meet with the state, what can they do to us?
That's a good question. I've not brushed up on my moderate income housing report penalties. There.
Oh, Dave. You mean the West Stop we used to have, but they took them.
I mean, I'm sorry, but I just.
I hear you, yeah.
There was well, yes, I don't know if that's still, when it first came out.
Oh,
that was a big deal.
BNC may have been on the table at one point. I don't think it currently is, but
Sorry.
when I guess to that point, to your point there, you brought up the flip side, but to exactly what I said, I just hope that whatever we're working on isn't just work on that, right? Like, Because to your point, the first doing it is to do
Yeah.
it, not very meaningful. So they're intrinsically motivated, like, it's not like, well, what's gonna happen, we know, it's like, oh, we genuinely wanna do this, we wanna do it. Otherwise, so.
Yeah, it's a really good point, because I mean, what do we wanna do? Is this fit the plan for Hooper? One of the things that the League of Cities continuously says is one size misfits all. You probably heard that being said a lot of legislature and stuff, but that is kind of a truth statement here, is like, some of this stuff is a complete misfit for who we are and what we wanna do here, so. Does any of this align with what we wanna do? Can we use some of this as tools to help us get to where we wanna get? And then we satisfy not only the reporting, but we're actually getting some stuff done that we wanna do here, not just checking a box. Yeah. All right, any other?
I mean, part of the struggle with is the data. I mean, almost every one of those strategies mentions moderate income housing. Okay, number one, what's the definition of moderate income housing? Does anybody ever have a big definition? How much is that? You know, you read page 2 right here in this report, and it says that affordable housing according to this is $100,000 household income has a purchase price of $470,630, $25,000 a month. And then it goes down from there, 80%, 50%, 30%. But the struggle is the data. I mean, the 2020 median property value is 334. US Census Bureau, the median value of home in Hooper at 371. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't know a single house in our city that's 334,
Not even close.
right? So
My
what,
property tax is different.
right, so how would we?
You're within five, right?
Modern housing on this data, when the data isn't correct. You know, but that's my struggle with. And how do we attain a goal of modern income housing if it's so unattainable to begin with?
And the pandemic changed that within a matter of 6 months.
So that's one of the things that I was mentioning, the WFRC said that they could do for us if they would do it for free, a demographic study.
Yeah.
That would let us look exactly, because that question was asked at the WACOG meeting, everyone said the same thing, what is affordable housing? And they said they could sit down with us and it would be free of charge, and they would do, put together an entire kind of demographic census to tell us what would affordable look like in our community.
Per area, like they would.
Yeah, they offered it to all cities for free. Sweet.
We need that.
I'll support.
If you take again a city like Hooper, it's not like we're not growing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look around, how many houses are being scheduled to be built now, have been in the last year, I mean, wonder if you're growing, maybe we're growing as fast as other cities.
Yeah, prorated,
But what if
basically.
they're more expensive houses, like I mean, there should be something to that.
Yeah.
It's not.
Well, and a great point of discussion is, we can't tell the developers what to build. And maybe they don't wanna build, you know, they might wanna build these 3/4 acre, more expensive lots in Hooper, because that's what people wanna buy in Hooper. And so it's not like we're able to go tell the developer, well, this is all we want, you know?
Especially if it's zoned that way. If it's complying with the zoning, you can't say no. And I know the two subdivisions, like this one that's just north of the church down here, and the one down at Cottle's, are both, you know, acre and 3/4 acre lots. There's not gonna be a house in either one of them. It's gonna be less than $750,000 and probably $1 million by the time they get done, because the lots are crazy. Yes,
Maybe, and then we're saying maybe in a house for 334.
yeah, I'm not like.
The only cheap lots in Hooper down at the cemetery.
And I don't think they're building. No, I don't know how we're supposed to cut there. That makes sense.
All right, any other discussion for Commissioner Lewis? Well, thank you for your time. Hearing no more discussion, then we will help move into our next item on the agenda, which is our city council assignment reports. I do have a report and then one for the mayor, but I did just mention a formality.
Just really quickly, there is fees. We are not participating in this. It would be per day fee. Up to $500 for income code.
Penalty?
It's shall pay a fee. The only wants a house. We have to use a day.
But if we're trying to participate, is that?
I will say that the city has received a non-compliance letter in the past. It was a technicality. We corrected it. It did not result in a fine.
Okay.
So if we submit a report and there is any issue, they'll send us back their findings. We can correct them and there are no monetary fines.
And then there is like some grants that are mentioned here that we do have access to.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
But
Go. So, next thing on our agenda is, city council assignment reports. So I've got some updates, like I said, and then, as a matter of formality, I apologize, I didn't do this earlier. I want to formally excuse, Mayor Bingham. She's sick, she's home. She is attending on Zoom, but just in a observe only capacity. She won't be available to take questions or interact with the meeting, so I'll be operating fully as pro tem today.
She did actually say though, that if we have a specific question, we needed to ask her, she would answer that.
She said that we got advised that she's staying.
Well,
She's sick, she's not.
No, I told her to go to bed. Oops.
So that being said, I'll read her report first. It's, she sent a copy to everyone, hopefully an opportunity to review it. It's discussing the option of providing sewer infrastructure and connections, to some parts of the west, side of Hooper. That currently do not have sewer capabilities. She put the background in there. Essentially, with the construction of the vacuum sewer system in 2007, it was determined that there was not the possibility of financially or physically providing a sewer to all residents of Hooper. Went on to tell some background of West Point and pretty much called on the fact that there is a grant that can be applied for that will provide funding for this project. Says the grant through Congressman Blake Moore's office, the EPA Community Grants Resource Funds. JUB will be writing the grant. They feel we would have a great opportunity to receive these funds. We can ask for up to $5 million, which is 80% of the grant, 20% is a local match. Then there is an opportunity.
5 or was it 55? I thought it was 55.
It says 5 million on the report, yeah. And then there's an opportunity to team up with West Point City or Weber County to help meet the local match. Councilman Rocoletto, she did tee up that you would be the one to lead this discussion. You got anything you want to add to it?
I think you just said everything that she told me,
Okay.
and but she did mention that she would like us to apply for this grant and then try to work with Weaver County and who's the other one, West Point, to see if we can even get into this without hardly any expense. And I think we only have 30 days to apply for it.
Okay.
And she said if they approve it and we decide not to use it, we just turn it back to them.
So what was our matching funds portion?
20%. So
$1 bucks.
but
Do you guys want a little background on that?
Yeah.
We'd love
us.
that.
I was saying something, Madison, but, you're talking about that grant. What did you say right before that?
The JUB grant, the JUB's ready, should be ready for this. Now, I know as a work meeting, we're not taking any formal action, but we just want to discuss what this would look like.
Yeah, let me just show you a quick visual, just to help grasp a little bit what where the discussion stemmed from. So probably in like early, back in like 2020 or 2021, there was a plan, a sewer master plan done for Hooper. This is West Hooper here. These are all lift stations, there's 7 of them. You can see it pumps all of it to an existing station, and that goes to Central Weaver. The estimated cost, I added them up. I'd have to get the year to add a little more perspective, but the estimated cost on this sewer plan, somewhere around 22 million, those days dollars. Yeah, well, that was those days dollars, 22 million. It's probably a little more now. This Taylor, our engineer, has really liked this concept of, this is the second half of that. It does not the whole, so it stops right here at 55. Here's 55. Here's 55. All of this can gravity feed south. So instead of pumping it all north, you could gravity feed. It's all, and this is where it gets out, I don't know. It's all in theory, it's all dependent on this lift station right here being built. West Point did all that sewer work. You guys are probably more familiar with me out now, but they did all this sewer work, and there's a lift station
It's all designed, ready to go. And they ran out of money. So Taylor's been talking with West Point, and he kind of has this grand scheme that if we could participate with West Point to an extent, if they are vice versa, that this could be completed. And then developers would be a little bit more incentivized to come lay the pipelines that could gravity feed down to this. And then instead of going to Central Weaver, the sewer would go to Central Davis. So North Davis.
So it would flow instead of suck.
It would flow instead of suck. There you go. That's it. So, and the cost relative, I'm not sure the cost comparisons are apples to apples, because those were like 5 years ago dollars, at 22 million for our old sewer plan that I showed you. This new one, this is a $6 million station that needs to be done. It wouldn't be ours entirely. It'd be, West Point's as well, but it'd be theirs, but we'd be feeding to it. And then I don't know, I mean, this is half of the pipeline compared to that. I don't know how much that would cost, but I mean, this whole, I don't know. So there's that's the concept here. That's where this is all stemming from.
So
Don't have to come to me. Just write them down and talk to the
all
engineer.
you guys will know way better. It's possible. I've heard the history and all this stuff is why we went with the septic system. And maybe I'm too young to know how this works, but what if we just get a dummy slam, big old hole, and we just feed our own sewage treatment plant, and we treat our own water, and then we give that back to people to irrigate with? What if we get a thought? I mean, that's
Just a one-time spot.
that's what I'm curious. I'm genuinely.
Yeah, the sewer treatment plants, I think Stephanie Russell looked into it once for us, and it was like astronomical, like unbelievable, like hundreds of millions type thing, but I don't know.
Well, I was saying.
But I don't know. I'm just saying what I've heard. I have no idea. I don't know anything about that. So.
I will tell you something that I just heard there that big crap on. That was potentially funded 30 years ago by the federal government. We had the option to do exactly what you're saying. But the residents of Hooper balked so bad, we didn't do it. John had contract in his hand from the feds to put a station down there, a processing station, the sewer plant on his property. But there was such an uproar in Hooper that it got.
Well, let me, if you guys are okay, I don't want to interject too much. I'm going to just summarize real quick, maybe what I feel like the root of this is, because I understand the logistics of it and the reality of it. Phil's far-fetched and hard to recommend, but the reality of it, I suppose, is at one point the city spent a lot of money to get the sewer plant done. It hasn't, from the last 5 years, nothing's occurred out here. Every developer comes in, if anything, we've maybe had a reverse effect. We allow less septic tank development than we did before. We've updated some things. We don't want this to be developed out on septic tanks, because every time a developer comes in and does a 30-lot subdivision with $30,000 septic tanks for 30 homes, that's money that could have gone into infrastructure that just went into septic tanks that homeowners bought. So we don't have any development going on out here really, other than onesie twosies.
They rolled out.
That's not. 30 lot subdivision.
Oh, they'll allow it. Yeah, they're doing one in Warren right now. Yeah, no, Davis County, Weber
I was told.
Davis County has a 10-acre minimum, so essentially moratorium. They call it that.
Well, that's gonna change.
10-acre minimum. We're much stricter than Weber County, kind of by most recent updates, which is good. It was kind of my opinion. I didn't think we should develop out on septic tank. I think it's a poor plan for the city. So anyways, here we are. This is what was presented to Hooper as an idea. We've not done anything with it. And I don't know if we ever will. It's expensive. It's costly. We hate vacuum. This is all, I don't know. It'll be interesting. But so this has kind of been an alternative conceptual, but it's big and hairy. And so I don't know, but that's where this whole idea stems from, is do we want to try and get some funds to help incentivize growth that way or not?
Malcolm, does that serve Weaver County and the Davis County side?
Would this new idea?
That pump station down there, yes.
Yeah,
That's new for it.
Cause like, think of the taxes too, how does that, like on all of our taxes, we get central Weaver charge. Are we gonna get done with it by Davis County, not too?
I don't know.
See, that's my, this is already connected centrally. So unless we can come up with a plan to send it all to North Davis, like the existing system.
I think they,
I don't have two systems.
I think this is like, none of this, I think they looked into it, and I don't think any of this is annexed into Central Weaver yet. Like, we're not required to go there, but the rest of us is.
What, is there a possibility of taking an existing sewer and connecting it to this system and sending it out North Davis?
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm
No,
not so
push,
sure. Yeah, I don't know.
Stephanie Russell actually did a concept.
and we do an
They,
RFP.
she suggested we look in.
Anyway, I'll be quiet now. I just wanted to add some background. So that's kind of the discussion.
So I guess as far as, the mayor's updating and discussion as far as, I mean, that is, $1 million is a lot. What's less than this 20%, what's a lot more, we'll say $1 million, right?
Yeah, but she was pretty confident that, it would be a whole lot less than that, by getting,
But what's we
Weaver,
for,
Weaver County,
Yeah.
to get a grant from them on West Point. And I don't, these grants, I don't understand how they all work, but no sure it does.
How much is $5,000?
that's the other thing, is just like, what.
So that lift station has $6 million left to be completed. The one that's
So
planned. It would pay for that lift station, yeah.
So
And I guess the idea is with that incentivize developers to say, well, now I'm within, I don't know how long those are, 400 feet of a lift station. I'm willing to do that much force, that much sewer line or not. That's kind of the. And then also there's a lot to work out with Western, right? Obviously. a lot.
Would you for sure check, cause I'm with Ryan on I think there's a 10-acre.
Davis County, Alan Parrish is just in here today. He's doing a 30 lot subdivision in Warren right now.
Yeah, but that-
So Alan Parrish did that if they have that. Yeah, I know Davis County does, but I think Weaver County's pretty agreeable. Weaver County was just about to approve one here on Brent Jones' property. They were okay with 30 homes on Brent Jones.
On septic.
They were, we weren't.
On septic tank.
Oh, yeah. They don't have, we don't have
So
sewer.
I don't know, me and Ryan are smoking crack here because I was not.
Anyways, neither here nor there.
They're not really.
Whatever. Any other thoughts, questions on this, President Bay? I mean, it's just a discussion point, but it is something we probably consider if it makes a difference at all. I know we're not making decisions in this meeting, but it's worth the discussion. So I've got a couple updates, just from my areas, that I've been covering, and we'll open up to everyone else if you have updates. So I got an opportunity to attend the Waycon meeting as pro tem for the mayor this week on Monday. And just some big points I want to call out for us as a city we should be aware of. The first and foremost, the mayor of Harrisville, so I've been gave a presentation on stormwater. And he said he got something like a $40,000 fund because they've been done with stormwater irrigation. And he just wanted to make all the cities, all the gaming aware, the cities, that this was something he had to do with, this is what he had to do with it alone. And there should be a nice portion of what was causing that. And so he didn't indicate where exactly, how it was assessed and all that stuff. He kind of just gave a brief discussion on it, but said everyone should be aware with a lot of the new ordinances. So I've been talking about them a little bit. And Jared did just kind of about the idea that with these new ordinances, we can't dump stormwater into irrigation. And so what could this cause if we did that? So
Our irrigation is separate. Irrigation, they do not allow.
Yeah. So maybe a non-issue, but when he brought it up, he should put everyone in for this, that you got hit with this, we're not sure if the state system, I know that we're going through the audit for stormwater. Is there any overlap? We're gonna find that out. Is there anything that we, but when he said, he's new mayor, just got elected and he's going, I got hit with this fine, so I wanted to bring it to our attention, at least for knowledge. And something, and maybe a good point and not an issue for us. The other thing that was the biggest topic was this affordable homeownership thing. And every city asks the same question, what's affordable? And the big thing that was said, one of the things I think is valuable for us is Speaker of the House stood up and he actually said, stacked housing doesn't fit in a place like Hooper. And he said, I'm in support of this idea of preemption and taking away our zoning regulations. So I thought it was great that he stood up for that and said it. But there was some discussion because essentially the governor has said, yes, I said preemption is a last ditch effort, but I feel like we're at this last ditch. What are we going to do for it? What's our plan? And one of the things that the Utah League of Cities has said is their biggest argument or the biggest point that they have to advocate for cities maintaining the right to zoning is showing partnerships. How are they showing that they're working with partnerships? So I just made a note of that, so they said they emphasize local partnership-based examples are the best tool they have in county communication right now. And some of the suggestions that were made were cities doing things like deed restricted owner occupancy. Maybe we offer a smaller lot option for people, but we put a deed restriction. So Ogden talked about how what they did is they gave a 10-year requirement. If you're the owner, you have to occupy that property for 10 years. It's on a smaller lot. And the way they enforce that is they require a commercial license for landlords. So if you're going to rent that out, you have to have a commercial license. Some people can still try to shirk the rule and not do it, but you know, it enforces in the long run. They actually said they still have voluntary enforcement. Where people come in and once they decide that they're gonna be a landlord and rent out that property, they have to show the plans, but they've owned it for long and that period of time until it's already restricted. And so that's one way that they kind of counter this, where they say, well, we don't want people building small lots and renting them out. So it fits for them. That may not be the exact problem we're trying to solve, but that was one tool that they used. Another thing that was brought up is there's a bill before the House right now in legislature that is creates a funding mechanism for cities to apply for when their housing is delayed due to infrastructure reasons like our sewage. So essentially what it is this funding will allow any city to apply for it if the nexus of it has to be that we're trying to achieve affordable housing. So whatever that looked like, if we would say this subdivision is an area of zoning affordable housing, we've got to deal with this developer, but we've got to put in sewage. Then we could apply for essentially this fund that would allow any city with that nexus. So I thought that was at least another tool that maybe is going to be beneficial for us to be able to look at if we decide that we want to address affordable housing in a specific way. And that could also pay for maybe some of our infrastructure needs. Then that's a benefit. But the biggest piece of everything that was mentioned at this time was just that one size fits all, that just the government is looking to come and say, we're putting in preemption if you're not doing something. So my biggest takeaway from every city locally and family is saying, we're saying that we want to decide. How do we decide? And so we need to be figuring out that piece. My last update is on my emergency preparedness. So I wanted to share service doing training coming up. And so they offer a free online training that you can go through. And then there's a $40 fee for in-person portion at CERT. And that training, they're going to be Thursday evenings, April 16th, 23rd, 30th, May 7th, from 6 to 9. So if anybody's interested in being CERT trained for our city, we want to make sure that it's something that's available. I think it's in our newsletter as well. But just making sure that we have, folks who want to get that done. And then I'm going to mention this as far as events coming up, but there was a group that came and spoke called Battle Forge Foundation. They're in Southwest some really good insight on ways they're supporting not only veterans, but also first responders, police officers who develop PTSD. They're building a shooting range in Clan City.
That's there.
Did you see the new 24 coming up in the state campus? Okay, like a 10 million full-time equivalent job opposing that.
No,
It's
it's on the
on the 24th. So I believe something. About my salary.
I will be out of town.
I don't know, your taxes or a portion.
I will, my oldest daughter is actually, she's cross deputized Weaver County, but she told me just recently that I believe the month before last, Weaver County lost 9 deputies in 1 month and went to other places. A disparity basically. For years and years. Yeah, and the hard thing about that is how do we get the county to, do that? I mean, and then of course, and we get our share. I mean, we're probably pushing close to $1 million now, basically, for law enforcement. When we get the new, we're gonna get bumped like probably over $100 grand, bro. That's gonna put us up, I don't know, $8,000-$9,000.
Well, we got about 10 minutes left. Any other updates anybody wants to give in your respective areas?
Probably will.
I know come sooner than me first.
I guess I could say, yes. In your water district board, they have one member passed away.
So they're going to appoint something that appointee can be outside of that district, they would represent. The hill just serve long leftover. So and then some of the electors from the area. That's the only.
Okay, zero, okay.
That's not the greatest update, that's. So.
So just next, discussion items, discussion of proposed goals project. So Larry, you placed this on here for us to talk about. I know with our discussion, you had mentioned just wanting to get an idea of, kind of where we're headed. And then the next piece was a discussion of reading letters from citizens by council members. That was another piece you placed on here. So I don't know if you want to.
So that first one, there's probably not time to do that, but
Okay.
the second one, is about the letters, about reading them out there from individuals and after, one was read and I didn't have a problem with it being read until I got the phone call the next day and, he says, why, and this guy told me, why would I ever want to go there when I could give it to one of the councilmen to read that has more authority than me speaking behind here? And then it was discussed, and I thought that's a very good point. Then since then I've had a lady, ask me the same question and that, and, there was one.
Well, Larry, do you mind just as a matter of formality, since it's on the agenda, C, is everyone okay with us tabling discussion C? So we can move into, section D in the work meeting. Anybody got any opposition to us? Skipping over that, is anyone really excited to talk about our goals a month? Okay, so we'll go ahead and table that another time, and then we'll move on to D, yeah.
So, there was one letter that, Councilman Powers read that, I could have, read the same letter and gave the other side of that and made it look the other way. So my question is, what do we want to do about these? Or I don't know if there's an ordinance or that says anything about it now, or just what you guys' thoughts?
I have to ask you that have been here for a while, is there a rule that, 'cause I've been finding that there are rules that have been in place for certain things. Is there a rule that is there a rule that people on Zoom can't discuss this? Not discuss.
Like a rule that says you gotta be present.
You gotta be present.
Yeah.
Our city airport and stuff, so like they have that rule that you can show up and watch on Zoom, but you don't have the ability to discuss, you have to be there. And present, that's what the rules.
So you guys got any thoughts on that?
It's just never kind of issue, but, it's never.
Just that, so that was just a one-time deal then.
I can tell you my opinion is, more from like a procedural courtesy type thing. So my thought is, how do we choose not to cherry pick what we're reading? And how do we make sure we're reading everything? Are we only reading everything, or are we reading what people have specifically and explicitly asked us to read? And then additionally, just for me, because I don't have the years here that you all have, I don't have any ways to verify that this person writing me is a constituent of mine. So I'm reading an opinion in open public forum, but how do I know that's a person who even lives here? And is who they say they are. I don't have a way of verifying an email. I don't have a way of verifying it's not the same as seeing the person in person. So my opinion is I have no problem responding to the emails I receive, but the response is appropriate. But I would not be of the opinion that reading them, I can stand on and say, I know that's who they say they are, and that it's, it's consistent. So I would be in favor of not reading them for those reasons. That's my opinion.
Well, a lot of the emails we receive may take longer than 3 minutes to read. So then you would be kind of flying through.
You would have to unpack, wouldn't you?
So,
I can definitely see how we get out of hand, but
Yeah.
we're saying, oh, why would it?
Sure.
Yeah, yeah,
That gets out. They're all,
yeah.
so, yeah, I can see definitely putting some restrictions on it, for sure.
Okay.
Well, and it might be as simple as, not making an ordinance or a rule or that, or just us just saying, you know what, can you have somebody else come read it? Here, just kind of leave it.
What's your thoughts, council?
If you guys want to adopt a rule, I mean, we have to do that and have a for that's not. But if you I mean, if you're just talking, you said just individually, if you're just thinking,
Well, I think it goes along with the same thing, and things we're talking about, you know, we have this, board process, the core, but we're gonna abide by the same rules, change that. We're gonna change it, you know, what are we doing with Zoom and then go along with it, what are we gonna do with this thing that just came out?
I agree.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Being somebody who's had to say about Zoom, I recognize we don't have clear language on it. So I don't understand what is explicit, what I should be adhering to if I need to do it virtually, or if that's even an option, or if it's someone who wants to be an option.
it is an option.
Yeah.
So it is, we have adopted a rule.
Yeah.
According to, and in accordance with state code. That allows for you to show up Zoom and vote. So if you ever want to change that, then you can change that specific rule itself.
Okay, that makes sense.
Have you guys had in the past to deal with that a lot as far as? Yeah, but since COVID, that was a couple of years ago.
I don't remember last time we had some board vision.
I will tell you that I think it's something where we would allow, not that I set a standard, but I do think that we should have adherence to like a lit background. You can see the person, you clearly can articulate their place where they're not being disrupted.
Oh, I think they need to be
Yeah.
sequestered, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably shouldn't be informed, shouldn't have their phone in their hands, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
So for me, I was in a secure place, I set a professional background, and the point to be visible and audible. So I would say that those type of expectations should be in place for allowed.
Well, this is just kind of a quick thought, what you said on the written emails that you don't get, it might be good to just reach out to that person that wrote this and said, would you be willing to come?
Yeah.
And you kind of share.
Yeah.
And just sit there.
Yeah, I think
If it's important enough, I think they would show. I mean, I would probably wait to.
Yeah, there's a time I couldn't anticipate when I was elected and I had a work from reason.
There you go.
Yes.
So shoot.
Yeah, rather than take all the time to make a rule, on that just kind of.
Well, we can't decide anything, yeah,
We can't say.
Yeah, we can't make a decision, it's not just.
It's just that, I think we were thinking about possibly changing some. Changing the rule or killing the rule, so. But
It's important to know what it would decide. All right, well, any other,
Minutes, sometimes I get to each. Back there.
And I think there's two.
We met on the second.